Welcome everybody, welcome to my channel. It's Sunday evening. My name is Rainer and this is Rainierbooks. Today is Sunday the 20th of December. We have 4 days to go until we are going to celebrate Christmas in a different way. And to keep you updated with what is happening in Sweden very shortly only, as I mentioned yesterday in my weekly wrap-up of week number 51, it really happened that the city of Stockholm has decided to close all the libraries from tomorrow on until January the 24th, and even there might be a suspension of travel between the UK and large parts of Europe because of this new strain or new variant of the virus that has been discovered in the UK that is more transmissible than the strains that we have met here in Europe or elsewhere in the world. But let's get started with a video about John le Carré, who died 1 week ago in the UK. So that I'm a reader, that I'm reading books is probably under the influence of some people who wrote books when I was younger, and when I started picking up books in the library in Odenkirchen, in the city library, which was a part of the Stadtbibliothek in Reit, where I grew up. That was in the 1970s, and in the 1950s and 1960s, John le Carré started becoming a writer. He was working for both the Secret Service in the UK and for the MI5 in the UK. He was actually working as some kind of spy. He was a consul in Hamburg in Germany. He also worked for the British services in Hamburg, so he always had a great affiliation to Germany as well. In the 1950s and 60s was the time when the Cold War was blooming. After the Second World War, you might remember this if you're a little bit older than as old as I am, or a bit younger. You probably know what happened after the Second World War. The four allies, the major allies, they fought Nazi and Hitler Germany. They won a victory, and Germany capitulated on May 8, 1945. But the four countries that led the war against Hitler, especially the two biggest and most important countries in that fight, the United States on the one side and the Soviet Union or the USSR on the other side, they were never friends. They did this together to get an evil out of the world, but they almost immediately became enemies after the war with Germany was settled. And there was a lot of fight about Germany as well, because Germany was divided into four zones after the Second World War, one French, one British, and one American, which later in 1949 formed West Germany, and one Soviet part in the east, which formed the German Democratic Republic, or DDR as we would say in German. And the city of Berlin, which actually is on the territory of former East Germany, but because it was the capital of Germany at the time, it was divided into four sectors as well, into an American, British, and French sector in Berlin, and into an East Berlin Soviet sector. So after the two German states emerged in 1949, first the German Federal Republic of Germany, and only 1 month later the German Democratic Republic, the city of Berlin remained on the territory of Eastern Germany, but the three sectors remained under the influence of the West. So three parts of Berlin were more or less democratic parts of Berlin, while the fourth part, the Soviet part, was under the strong influence of the Soviet Union. Until 1961, it was possible to move more or less frequently from the east to the west. And when the situation got worse and worse economically and also politically in the east, more and more people from East Germany went to West Berlin and never went back to East Germany. So what happened was that East Germany had to do so, the GDR had to do something about this, so they built a wall on August 13. It was a Sunday morning, August 13, 1961. A wall was built that separated the east sector of Berlin from the French, from the American, and from the British sector. So east and west were parted with a wall, and no one could get over. They built something called der Todesstreifen, I think, which was 200-300 meter from the wall. They had an area with lots of obstacles, and it was absolutely your life was in danger, and many people were killed actually in this part that was from the wall and the 200-300 meters until the territory of the GDR really started in Berlin. The Todesstreifen, the stripe of death, as we called that in Germany. This is important to know, I think, because John le Carré started his writing. He was a Cold War, a chronicler of the Cold War, you could call him. His first great success was his third novel, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, that Jack, the rambling raconteur, has described and talked about in a beautiful video, which I think he published 2 days ago on his channel. I put a link upwards on my video here to his great video about The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. I'm not going to talk about this novel here anymore, other than there's also a great movie adaptation of this novel, which was done in 1965, I think, with Sir Richard Burton in the main role, and it was filmed in Berlin, and it shows all this tension around the border, east and west. There were lots of things happening there, spies, agents, refugees. People always tried to make deals above that wall, and it was almost always it was very dangerous and gave a lot of possibilities for conspiracy theories, for real conspiracies, and also for bad action. So John le Carré, who was already in the 1960s, as I said, he had worked in Hamburg, has great knowledge about Germany, and he also spoke quite fairly German, as I have heard. He was writing The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, became immediately a superstar on the literary thriller scene of the 1960s. And he had created a supporting character for The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, a bureaucrat from working as a spy handler, more or less, in the MI5 or in the Secret Service, and this guy's name was George Smiley. And Smiley would return in a lot of novels that John le Carré has written. Namely, I want to name one of the novels, which is called Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, that came in the middle of the 19... Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy was published in 1974, and this is the story of George Smiley now as the main character of this novel, where he knows that a mole, a traitor, is working for the Secret Service and actually working for the Russians, and he's trying to find out who this spy might be to save his own department. And this is Tinker, Tailor, Spy. That was also put into a TV show and into a movie, a Swedish movie actually a couple of years ago, and a TV show with Sir Alec Guinness as George Smiley, which was a brilliant actor to play George Smiley. And one of the reasons why John le Carré created George Smiley was he wanted to create, as he said, a real person who could be really somebody who works for the services, instead of James Bond by Ian Fleming, who emerged also in the 1960s and 70s and still today, because le Carré thought that James Bond has nothing to do with the real life of secret services, as we might have guessed, but he wanted to put a picture into the world that is real and authentic about how secret services work. So that is George Smiley, who returns in several novels after Tinker, Tailor, Spy, and who had already appeared in a couple of other novels. The great opponent of George Smiley and is, on the Moscow side, a man named Karla. And Karla is never identified, I think, in none of the novels. We only know that Karla has a brain. He's a very dangerous conspirator, and he is ruthless, and he is the evil in person, more or less. And George Smiley is always fighting his fights with Carla in the distance, using their marionettes and their agents and their spies. And the role model for Carla, John le Carré has said, that was the German, East German spy boss Markus Wolf. Markus Wolf worked for the GDR, and I looked it up actually. Markus Wolf was the head of the main directorate for reconnaissance in East Berlin. He was responsible for foreign operations that the East German Secret Service started in West Germany or in other countries. But slowly, after the chronicler of the Cold War and after the world, with a changing world, and in a changing world, John le Carré turned to other subjects as well. And the older he got, the angrier he got about the state of the world. I want to name a couple of his novels, just to give you a bunch of half a dozen novels that I would really recommend you to read. One is The Little Drummer Girl, that was published in 1983. The Little Drummer Girl is about a woman, a young, beautiful woman in her 20s. She's an actress. Her name is Charlie. She is recruited by an Israeli agent who recruits her without her knowledge, actually, which kind of, because she's going to play, and that's the plot that they give her, she's going to play the biggest role of her life. Because they want her, the Israelis want her to get the attraction of one of the most dangerous Palestine terrorists that they want to kill and to eliminate. And it's the little drummer girl, Charlie, who's going to lead them to this guy. And this is a story about how the services manipulate and ruthlessly manipulate the lives of people and use them as tools to get what they want without caring what happens to the tools. Also, this book has become a movie with Diane Keaton and Klaus Kinski. A couple of years later, in 1989, John le Carré published his novel The Russia House, where George Smiley again is a supporting character. He's not the main character, but he's also in this book. This is about a British publisher who travels to Moscow, to a fair in Moscow. He meets a beautiful woman. They get in contact with each other, and she is giving him documents that he is supposed to take to the West. And the British publisher is suddenly a wheel in the mechanics of the international spy and agent wheel, and it becomes very dangerous for him. Also, this became a major movie, interestingly, with Sean Connery in the role as the British publisher. The Tailor of Panama was done in 1996. Tailor of Panama is a very interesting story because it's a fake story. The Tailor of Panama is a book about Harry Pendle, who is a tailor in Panama. He's British, he's married, he has a family, he has children, and nobody knows that he actually learned his profession being a tailor in prison. His wife doesn't know it, his kids don't know it, so he has a secret. And in comes a young British agent, Andy Osnard, and Andy Osnard's task in Panama is, because Panama is, the Panama Papers, Panama is the link between North and South America. It's always been a very interesting country for mysterious affairs. And Andy Osnard is coming to Panama. He meets Harry Pendle, and he finds out actually that Harry Pendle has secrets. And together Andy and Harry, they start a very dangerous game, because they overplay. They give information to the headquarters in London, and information that's also getting into other channels, and which is actually nothing. They're nothing burgers that they give them, but they try to make money out of the nothing burgers of information that they sell. But then suddenly people get interested, and they believe that this information is real, and things grow them over their heads, and they end up in real danger. That's The Tailor of Panama from 1996. Then in 2001, John le Carré made a novel that is, I think, one of his strongest and one of his most angry novels. This is about Tess Quayle. Tess Quayle is a made-up fictitious woman. She is, I think she's the, many years ago that I read this, she's the wife of a rich wife of a British researcher, and she is in Africa, and suddenly she's missing. And her husband is in England. He doesn't know what happened to his wife. So he travels to Africa to find out what happened. Then she got killed, actually. She got killed. She's killed. Horrible thing has happened. She was traveling in a Jeep with 2 or 3 friends, and they all got killed there. So what happened to his wife? He goes to Africa and finds out, in the end, that his wife is, so no spoiler here, that his wife was doing charity work in Africa and I think in East Africa. Africa is not one country, I know that. It's 43 countries, it's a super big continent. Sorry for saying Africa here only. But he's in East Africa, the things happen. And they find out that, the husband finds out that his wife was actually fighting a conspiracy, because she found out that great Western pharmaceutical companies made tryouts with pregnant African women, and many of those pregnant women died. And the company tries to put this under the table, to put this under the carpet, as we say in German. And Tessa Quayle didn't want to make this public, and that's the reason why she got killed. John le Carré has written an afterword to this novel, and he said, by comparison with reality, this novel is like a postcard from a summer holiday. With The Mission Song. The Mission Song is a novel about the exploitation of Congo and by the West. And the main character is Bruno Salvador. He's a man who grew up in Congo and who lives in the UK, and he gets contacted by the Secret Service in London, because a conference between the government representatives and the rebels in that country, in a part of Congo, will take place. A secret conference, nobody knows about it, on a secret island. And the MI5 is telling Bruno that they are going to have listening devices everywhere. They have microphones everywhere, and they expect him to translate what is being said by all the people. And reluctantly he agrees to do that, and one day he listens to a very, very dangerous dialogue between 2 people on that island, somewhere in the British islands, and things get very, very tense and very, very interesting. Also, this book is about the exploitation of African countries by the rich countries in the West. John le Carré died last week. That's of course very sad. He was 89 years old, and he was a great writer. If you haven't read anything by le Carré, I absolutely recommend you to do so. If you have read something of him, please drop me a comment down below and tell me what you think, what you thought about him. If you have seen the movies, you can do a comment as well, or the TV shows. Rest in peace is all we can say when somebody dies, and of course it's a sad event. 89 years old is a good age, I don't know, but it's always sad. And thank you very much for watching this video, and stay safe, wear a mask, socially distance, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.